We're perfect because we exist to please.
And most of all, make them happy.
Society is developing and the times are advancing. There's nothing you can't imagine, and nothing you can't achieve. A mysterious company named Utopia has emerged out of nowhere. It specifically serves high-end men from all walks of life, and is a modern, high-tech hidden paradise. One day, Ellie had just finished dinner with her friends. On her way home, she was abducted by suddenly appearing men, and taken onto a black van. Ellie's husband is named Mike, a CIA agent. When Mike came back home after completing his mission, he found that his wife was nowhere to be found, so he used various methods and channels, and finally found some clues. It turned out that the black market had recently been abducting and gathering women. Based on the clues, Mike found one of the contact persons. At first, the other person refused to admit it. Mike said firmly,
"You're gonna tell me where she is."
At this point, the accomplice appeared. Mike knocked them to the ground with just a few moves, and thus found out his wife's whereabouts. Based on their confessions, Mike drove a borrowed luxury car at high speed all the way. He couldn't help but recall their sweet life in the past. He even regretted the quarrels he had with his wife, because he hid his missions from her. Where is Mike going to with all this effort? It turned out, he was going to infiltrate this mysterious company called Utopia. After arriving at the destination, with the help of his colleague Old Jack, Mike changed his name, and successfully got into this high-tech fortress as a wealthy man. Here, there were nothing but high-ranking officials, nobles, and business tycoons. Here, you could not only choose the type of girl, but also selected the style and the era-themed scenes. At the same time, the dressing room at the back was also bustling with activity. Girls of all types were dressing up and making up, hoping to win the favor of the clients, and Ellie was among them. But when you see this, you will find that their facial expressions when speaking, and their behaviors all show a sense of mechanical stiffness. What method did Utopia Company use to train them to be so obedient? Mr. Carl, the major shareholder of Utopia, came to inspect. Don't be fooled by his bald head. He has much more money in his hands than the number of hairs he has. Carl looked at the girls in front of him with full attention, and was finally deeply attracted by Ellie, who was standing at the end. Before the evening banquet started, everyone went to the bar to interact. With her stunning beauty and high emotional intelligence, Ellie became the most popular woman at the venue. At the same time, Mike also came to the bar, and happened to meet the account manager, who was introducing the company's business to him. She claimed that they could customize women who were almost identical according to the client's requirements. The ultimate goal was to satisfy the clients. At this point, Mike spotted Ellie not far away, sitting at the bar chatting and laughing with some men. Mike was burning with anger at this point. He walked forward quietly, casually stuffed an object into the pocket of John, the man next to him, and then went up to greet Ellie. But Ellie acted as if she had never seen Mike before, and even used her high emotional intelligence to help him out of an awkward situation. Later, the person in charge of Utopia went on stage to pay tribute to the guests present and told them that they had come here for enjoyment. Therefore, the use of mobile phones and computers wasn't allowed, and even going out was prohibited until the experience ended. Before long, Carl also appeared at the venue, and hurried straight to Ellie with enthusiasm. He showed off his unique vision to other clients. After speaking, he took Ellie and left the venue. Mike could only stand aside and watch helplessly. It was estimated that he had cursed Carl 1,000 times in his heart, but at this point, there was nothing he could do. At this time, two waiters took Mike to change his clothes, and showed him around. By the way, when they arrived at the fitting room, most clients chose Nazi costumes, but Mike chose the uniform of the Allied forces. Utopia Company really took its business to a new level, even letting clients play role-playing games. All kinds of scenes were made as realistic as possible, making people unconsciously immerse themselves in the illusion. Mike knew that to rescue his wife, he had to find out the secret of Utopia Company. After communicating with Old Jack through secret messages, Old Jack guessed that this might be a relatively advanced future technology. He had the honor to take part in it before. Unluckily, the experimental results were barely satisfactory. At this time, Mary took Mike into a bar. Ellie was dancing a sexy dance on the stage. Mike had never seen his wife so bold and unrestrained before. Just then, Mike saw many men wearing Nazi military uniforms nearby. When he was wondering, Linda told him that all the men wearing Nazi costumes here were those who lacked ability. They wanted to regain some confidence in this way. At the same time, Ellie was also full of curiosity about Mike. When they were walking together, Mike originally wanted to take the opportunity to find out some information. Unexpectedly, Carl showed up again and arrogantly took Ellie away. Mike was about to hit him, but Mary beside him stopped him in time, and tried to persuade him. On the other side, Carl implied to Ellie that he wanted to have a romantic date with her that night. His gaze was so intense that it seemed as if he wanted to devour her. Shortly after, Ellie suddenly saw a landscape photo on the wall. Blurry images suddenly flashed through her mind. As night fell, the girls in Utopia were dressing up, getting ready for the evening feast. The major shareholder Carl played the role of a supreme royal, kicking off a feast that could only be imagined by everyone. On the other side, Mike was actually assigned 2 girls by the authorities here, but Mike had no other thoughts at this point, so he made up a random excuse to get out of it. To ease the awkward atmosphere, Mike casually asked about the 2 girls' backgrounds, but they couldn't even answer, because they had no such memories, and Mike, who was good at counter-reconnaissance, spotted the camera, so he asked Mary for help. Later, in the dressing room, the girls talked about their own origins, but very few of them could remember.
We don't remember because it's not important.
At this point, Ellie couldn't help but recall something again. Early the next morning, several well-trained men in black appeared at the door of the room, and took Mike away with serious expressions. Mike felt very anxious in the elevator, wondering if his identity had been accidentally exposed. Soon, they arrived at the person in charge's office. Only then did Mike realize that the other person wanted to invite him to invest and join the company. So Mike took the opportunity to ask the person in charge what method the company used to make these girls so obedient. But the person in charge was no fool, and wouldn't easily reveal the company's trump card to Mike, unless Mike became a shareholder of the company. After Mike left, an urgent message came in the security room. They had monitored a secret communication that wasn't authorized by the company. The security captain immediately ordered his men to track the source of the signal. After obtaining permission from the person in charge, the security captain went to the door of the track room and kicked it open. A signal transmitter was found in John's pocket. John, who was completely confused, inevitably received a severe beating. It turned out that Mike had long chosen John to be the scapegoat. On the other side, when Mike found Mary and wanted to ask for help again, he learned something. Here, the girl's words and actions were completely controlled by the company's instructions, and he got the new instructions copied by Mary. At the same time, old Jack analyzed that the girls here must have had chips implanted in them. He also told Mike to try to find the VIP room and turn off the main power switch, but their communications signal had been exposed, so Mike had to act immediately. Later, Mike found Ellie in the nightclub and successfully took her away using the instructions Mary had given him. But Carl, who was nearby, noticed them. Seeing that Ellie was ignoring him at this point, the old man was instantly furious. Not long after, Mike found the VIP room and located the power switch, according to the prompts. After pulling down the switch, there was no impact on the outside at all. At the same time, 2 thugs arranged by Carl got into the VIP room. Although Mike was skilled in combat, the other side wasn't to be underestimated either. Mike, who had been hit hard on the head, walked out of the room. Ellie found him and took him back to treat his wounds. On the other side, Mary was assigned to receive a guest dressed as a cowboy. This man wanted to play some perverted games right from the start. Just as he was about to get violent, Linda suddenly appeared behind him and taught the man a lesson. From this incident of hurting a client again, it could be seen that the girl's self-awareness was gradually awakening. A moment of tenderness had already restored Mike's strength. At this point, Mike had a sudden idea. He took out a device and tried to detect Ellie's brainwaves, hoping to find the company's signal control center through this. At the same time, the central control room also detected an anomaly. The security captain immediately sent people to the room, but when they arrived, the room was already empty. At this time, old Jack at the rear learned through the analysis of Ellie's brainwaves that the signal source should be on the top floor of Utopia. Just as Mike was searching with Ellie, several men in black suddenly appeared and attacked Mike. In the nick of time, Mary and Linda appeared and shot the men in black dead. So they picked up the elevator card on the ground and went up to the top floor of the company, but they were shocked by everything in front of them. There were countless women lying here with expressionless faces. They were sleeping so peacefully. At this point, Linda found someone who looked exactly like her. After checking the display screen in front of him, Mike learned that some of them had been lying here for many years. Only then did Mike realize that these lying women were the real people.
You're their copies.
You were their clones. At this point, old Jack also realized that The abducted women weren't being subjected to brain control, but were being used as hosts. Utopia collected their personal consciousness and transferred it to the clones. If the power supply of the connection was cut off, these unconscious women would wake up. Soon, Mike found Ellie's real body and activated the awakening mode. As expected, the real Ellie woke up immediately. Mike was overjoyed and ready to take his wife away. At this point, the clone Ellie pointed a gun at Mike from behind, because she didn't want to be replaced by the real one. At the same time, the person in charge of Utopia also came to the top floor, promptly stopped the awakening program, and took Mike away. Mary was also taken away by the account manager, who gave her a warning. Mary should have been dealt with when the accident happened back then. It turned out that Mary was the company's first clone, who consciously killed a client, but the company had secretly covered up the matter at that time. At the same time, Mike, who had been taken away, seized the opportunity to knock down the man in black. He also re-entered instructions to Mary by the way. Then he continued to look for a way to awaken the others. At this point, he ran into Carl. Mike had long wanted to kill this old rogue with his own hands, so he did. Before long, Mike finally found the control center and began to figure out how to operate it, but the person in charge tried to persuade Mike through the walkie-talkie. In the nick of time, the cloned Ellie picked up a pistol and tried to stop him again. In the race against time, old Jack finally broke into the internal system of Utopia Company and completely shut down the whole signal source. Soon, all the unconscious women outside woke up, but after a minute of silence, the clones miraculously restarted. At this point, the cloned Ellie picked up the gun again. Just as she was about to pull the trigger, she was shot dead by the real Ellie, who had woken up and was standing behind her. After that, Mike made arrangements for all the women to leave safely. Mike turned around and went back to fight the security captain, but this security captain seemed to be all bluster. He was quickly knocked to the ground by Mike. Unexpectedly, the account manager appeared from the side to block the women who had reached the exit. When the manager realized that the situation was hopeless, he readily opened the door. At the same time, Mike successfully escaped from the pursuit of the men in black and got on the bus leaving Utopia. On the other side, the person in charge of Utopia made a surprising discovery. After the real bodies woke up, the clones could still act independently, which made him feel like he had discovered a new world. This also attracted new investment shareholders. It seemed that Utopia's business wouldn't stop here, and no one knew how many more girls would fall victim to it in the future. This is where the movie ends. The movie Utopia is a thrilling action film, full of a sense of the future and suspense. It's said that the film drew inspiration from Westworld. If you have a special fondness for films that take you through the misty world of the future, blend reality and imagination, and are full of suspense and surprises, then this film will make your heart race and keep you glued to the screen. The film is not only a battle between life and death, but also a contest of the soul. The male lead Mike sets out to explore the truth. With all kinds of questions at the beginning, he not only has to confront layers of crises, but also struggles with loneliness and fear in his heart. As he gets closer to the truth, Mike realizes that some things may not be explainable by common sense, and the truth itself may be a cold utopia. If you like my channel, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe.